Tonight, the fire at York Memorial Collegiate is deemed accidental, but what caused it is still unknown.
In this instance, it was because they were unable to isolate the ignition source.
The 6-alarm fire burned for more than 24 hours and displaced some 900 students and staff. Plus, new details tonight about the victims of the boating crash involving TV personality Kevin O'Leary. The latest from the police investigation into the tragedy. And
it's kind of disorienting.
I actually had to call in sick a couple of days at work.
It's just miserable.
If you've noticed your seasonal allergies have gotten worse, listen up. Experts believe climate change is largely to blame. Good evening, I'm Talia Ricci. The massive fire that tore through the historic York Memorial Collegiate back in May was accidental. That's the finding of an investigation by the Ontario Fire Marshal's Office. But many questions still remain. Kelda Yoon reports.
Almost 4 months later, the extensive damage caused by the fire still evident. But one big question remains. How did it start? The Office of the Fire Marshal revealing today it doesn't know.
I'm not able to get into the circumstances of the fire, but I think what's important here is that through a thorough investigation using the scientific method, they were unable to isolate the ignition source.
But investigators say they did determine it was accidental. On May 6th, crews were called to the school for a 2-alarm fire. It took them hours to knock it down. They were then called back the next day when flames erupted again. This fire, larger than the first, collapsing part of the roof. The fire marshal's office says it had started in the walls of the auditorium and that it was actually a single fire which had been reignited. Toronto Fire Chief Matthew Pegg said he won't be commenting on the report until he has gone through it, tweeting, "Our team will review the fire investigation report in detail in order to gain a full understanding as to the origin, cause, and circumstance analysis." Behind this debris lies a lot of history. The building was originally built as a tribute to those who gave their lives in the First World War. When the fire happened, the school was getting set to celebrate its 90th anniversary. The TDSB says it too won't be commenting on the fire marshal's report until it has had a chance to review it. In a statement, it said, in part, "Our focus right now and in the weeks ahead is on York Memorial students and staff as they begin the school year." Next week, the students of York Memorial who have been displaced by the fire, almost 900 of them in total, will be attending class at the nearby Scarlett Heights Academy. As to when they will be able to return to their school, that's still up in the air. Kelda Yoon, CBC News, Toronto.
Provincial police in Muskoka continue to investigate that fatal boat crash involving TV star Kevin O'Leary. It happened late Saturday night on Lake Joseph. 2 people were killed in the crash, and the former Dragon's Den star insists he wasn't driving his boat when the crash happened. Angelina King has the latest.
The criminal investigation branch of the OPP continues combing for evidence, sorting out what led to the crash late Saturday night that killed 2 people. 64-year-old Gary Poltash from Florida died on scene. He was visiting his friend Irv Edwards and was on his boat. Edwards is a doctor originally from Canada but now lives and works in California. 48-year-old Suzanne Brito from Uxbridge died late Tuesday. Her friend told CBC News she was a beautiful person inside and out and a devoted mother of 3. Just hours before the crash, Brito posted this photo of the lake on Facebook, writing, "Beautiful day. Enjoy." TV personality Kevin O'Leary was in the other boat. He posts a lot about his property on the lake and his love of boating, including in this Instagram post from 2 years ago that says, "Boating at night freaks me out, but it feels good when I see the lights of the boathouse. #got home alive." The crash happened close to O'Leary's cottage on Lake Joseph near Emerald Island.
What I like about this is to be one with nature. Look at that.
This video from 2010 shows him giving a tour of that cottage. In a statement, O'Leary has said he was a passenger in one of the boats and that the other one had no navigation lights on and fled the scene. But OPP says both boats went to get medical help. Police still aren't confirming if any boats fled, whether any lights were off, and if alcohol or speed were factors. And no charges have been laid. Angelina King, CBC News, Toronto.
After weeks of being vertical, the Cherry Street Bridge has finally been lowered.
Something like this rarely happens. It is a very complex problem. We're very sympathetic to both the residents of Toronto and the business owners on the south side of the Keating Channel here, because we have heard that there has been some inconvenience and some impact to the businesses.
For almost a month now, the bridge has looked like this. Out of commission after a mechanical failure caused it to get stuck in a vertical position. Yesterday, the city said they'd get the bridge moving again, but they called it off due to increasing winds and an issue with a part. But finally this afternoon, the bridge was lowered down slowly back to its original place. The bridge is one of the main access points to Toronto's Portlands. Students heading back to school next week will soon have to leave their cell phones in their backpacks.
No longer will social media, Instagram checks, and Twitter reviews be part of the daily experience of a student when it comes to instruction period, the in-class academic achievement.
The province will be restricting the use of phones in classrooms starting in November. Some school boards already have a similar policy in place, but the PCs wanted to create a standard throughout the province. The initial ban was supposed to start at the beginning of the school year, but will be delayed to give students time to implement the restrictions. Students will be able to use the devices for educational purposes, health or medical purposes, or for special needs. The province proposed this ban in their platform during last year's election campaign. Meteorologist Nick Sternkovich joins us now for a first look at our forecast. Beautiful day today, but it didn't really stick around.
No, you wouldn't have known it earlier today. It was sunshine right across the board. However, tonight we're looking at a slight trough that's moving through the region, and that's going to bring with it some showers or thunderstorms if you're not already seeing it right now. In terms of temperatures, though, we are on the mild side. The average low for this time of year, about 12, 13 degrees tonight. We're going down to 17 degrees. So a little bit of good news on that front. There's a look at the system that's moving across. Fairly short-lived, though. It's going to sweep through by tomorrow morning. We're looking at a dry commute. And in fact, we've got sunshine again as we move through the day tomorrow. Here's a look at your forecast for the next 24, 17 degrees tonight. As I mentioned, showers and thunderstorms. Still pretty gusty through tonight. 23 degrees tomorrow and sunshine. And there is more of that for the long weekend.
Thanks,
Nick.
We'll check in a little later.
You bet.
16,000 traffic tickets were handed out to drivers since the King Street pilot project began in 2017. That means nearly 30 tickets were given out every day. Now that it's become permanent, will drivers do a better job of obeying the new law? We sent our Natalie Nanowski to find out.
For locals, fewer cars on King Street.
Just makes the street much more friendly and open.
But for drivers who don't know the area has signs telling them they can't go straight or left.
It can be very confusing. I personally know some people in my company who definitely don't like coming down here at all because of all the signs.
You see a lot of people disobeying the traffic laws, so they like this guy right here and this guy right here.
We stood on the street corner for 15 minutes, and every single minute a car, just like that one, would disobey the traffic sign.
Even as Sergeant Brett Moore pulled in for our interview, he had to explain to a bus driver that his only option was to turn right.
We're almost at 16,000 tickets since the beginning of when the pilot started in November 2017 to the end of July this year.
Despite the police blitz and installing signs beside the traffic lights, drivers just aren't getting it.
Because of all those neat things that King Street is, it's a destination for people and tourists. And so a lot of the folks that we're stopping are from out of town.
Those tickets aren't cheap. $110 and a couple of demerit points. Along the 2-kilometer stretch from Bathurst to Jarvis, King and Portland is the corner with the most violations.
Since the pilot project began November 2017, there have been 16,000 tickets given out.
Right.
What do you think about that?
I think that's a small number, considering how many people I see just drive through.
Is there anything you think that could be done better here or anywhere else along the pilot that will let drivers know, don't go through, turn right, turn left?
Yeah, you know what? I'll be honest with you. There's probably always things to do, but we've got a great relationship with the folks at the city. They have professional engineers that know the roads and the design and how to do it way better than police. So we'll let the engineers do the engineering. We'll leave the police, the enforcement to the cops.
and officers might get some help soon. The city is waiting to get approval from the province to install photo radar cameras wherever it sees fit, including the King Street corridor. Natalie Nanowski, CBC News, Toronto.
This sign may not look controversial, but it is here in Brampton. I'm Lorenda Redekop. With back to school just around the corner, I'll have more on the fight over safety signs. That story coming up.
In Brampton, signs have popped up reminding drivers to slow down just in time for back to school. But those signs have now sparked a fight between a local councillor and the city bylaw office. Lorenda Redekop explains.
The local councillor and her staff have handed out around 500 signs so far. This is year 2.
I met a woman who fatally lost her son to a speeding car on her street, and I said, you know what, something's got to be done.
But the city says the signs are not allowed. It says the sign bylaw allows for specific safety messaging, such as to alert people about speed bumps, construction workers on road, or potential trip hazards. If the city receives a complaint, it'll be investigated and charges could be laid. Williams reads the bylaw differently, arguing this is a safety message, but says she's ready if there's a problem.
I don't think the bylaw is going to go around and charge 2,000 people for having a community safety sign on their lawn. However, if they do, I will pay the fine.
She hopes she's found a way around it, asking people to ensure the signs are on their lawns, not on city property. Councillor Williams argues her signs are different from ads like this one and shouldn't require a permit. That's because there's an exemption under the bylaw for signs that pertain to public safety.
And we've made sure that the signs are within the size required.
So you went and measured, you
made sure? Of course. I'm not trying to cause trouble. I just want to get people to slow down.
Bob Beland was happy to add a sign to his lawn today.
It's a school zone, which is insane that kids ride their bikes here. People walk their dogs. It's really dangerous.
People walking by don't seem bothered.
There's some signs down there that say slow down, and the cars should slow down because when students are getting on the bus, then the buses have to stop to pick them up, so we don't want cars crashing into the buses.
The sign bylaw could get even stricter. A city councillor is calling for all election signs to be banned as well. Lorenda Redekop, CBC News, Brampton.
If you feel like you're sneezing and wheezing more this summer, you may be right. Many experts believe climate change could be making allergies worse. Our Lauren Pelly looks into that.
Usually I start and I wake up in the morning with a lot of pressure in my head.
It's just miserable. It's like you can't stop sniffling, you can't stop sneezing.
I'm a snotty, sneezy, wheezy, bloodshot mess.
Plenty of Canadians say those allergy symptoms are getting more severe, thanks to pollen-producing plants like weeds, grasses, trees, and just about everything that grows out of the ground.
Every day, we have over 30 cities that we monitor here in Canada.
This pollen tracking company measures all those fertilizer grains floating through the air. More than a decade of data shows the amount is steadily rising in cities across the country, including Ottawa, Montreal, Winnipeg, Toronto, and Calgary.
It seems to be attributed to several different scenarios, but one could be longer growing season, which we believe is attributed to climate change.
Ragweed, for instance, is around way longer throughout central North America. Research shows during a 2-decade span, the plant's growing season jumped by 25 days in Winnipeg and 24 days in Saskatoon. Scientists think the trend has to do with global warming. Rising temperatures mean plants can grow earlier and later in the season, and more carbon dioxide in the atmosphere acts as plant food, helping each one get bigger and produce more pollen.
So why are we seeing more pollen and worse allergies in concrete jungles like this, where it feels like there's not actually that many plants?
We have a lot of high buildings. Pollen is trapped, so the air circulation, the wind currents may not be as great in a city environment.
This allergist says there are also more allergens in cities than people realize.
People are also starting to plant trees that don't have much in the way of flowers or seeds or fruits, only because they tend to make less of a mess and require less care. But at the same time, these trees are also high pollen producers.
If you are suffering from allergies, there's a few lifestyle changes you can try, like closing your windows in the summer or trying over-the-counter allergy medications. But if you do find your symptoms are getting much more severe, you can head to your doctor and try an allergy specialist. They can do a test, find out what's bothering you, and hopefully find a targeted treatment to make sure your symptoms are gone for good. Lauren Pelly, CBC News, Toronto.
The Canadian International Air Show is celebrating a milestone this year. It's their 70th anniversary. To help celebrate, the British Royal Air Force has brought in the Red Arrows. I'm Greg Ross. I'll have a sneak peek of these planes plus a whole bunch more coming up.
The weather update is brought to you by Train Extreme Conditions Testing. It's hard to stop a train, really hard. Trane, the most reliable heating and cooling brand.
Mississauga native Bianca Andreescu has advanced to the third round of the U.S. Open. She ousted Belgian veteran Kirsten Flipkens today in New York. The 19-year-old is playing in her first tournament since winning the Rogers Cup earlier this month in Toronto. Next, she'll face former world #1 Caroline Wozniacki on Saturday, and Richmond Hill's Denis Shapovalov also advanced to the third round today. His next game is also on Saturday. Well, it's a sure sign that the summer is coming to a close. For the past 7 decades on Labor Day weekend, the skies over Toronto have been invaded by the most incredible aircrafts from around the world. Greg Ross got a sneak peek of what's to come at the Canadian International Air Show.
The Canadian International Air Show is not only the oldest air show in Canada, it's also the longest continuous running air show in North America. And to help celebrate 70 years, the British Royal Air Force has brought in these, the Red Arrows. And this weekend, they'll be taking to the skies of Toronto for the first time in more than 15 years. So this is Ben Ireland. He's one of the engineering officers with the Red Arrows. How fast do these things go?
So the aircraft can break the sound barrier. We have to do that in a dive.
What kind of things are you guys going to be doing in the air show?
Okay, so our show is split into 2 halves. The first half, you'll see all 9 aircraft flying together. We'll fly extremely close formation. After that, the 9 aircraft will split apart into 2 separate formations, and then you'll see some more high-energy maneuvers. Some of
that speed.
Yeah, some of the speed of the aircraft, some of the high G capability of the aircraft. A lot more exciting.
You guys have an interesting way to kind of showcase the 70 years that this show has been in existence.
Yeah, something we're doing different this year is we're going to showcase aircraft from each of the last 7 decades to show how we've kind of evolved with aircraft design.
This is a Russian MiG-15, the only one in Canada. The pilot of this plane is right there, Richard Cooper, or Coop. Can I call you Coop?
Yeah, absolutely.
You're going to hop in here.
That's it.
All right, that's a pretty tight cockpit in there.
It is. There's not a lot of room in here.
This really revolutionized fighter jets.
This was really the start of the swept wing jet fighter era. And the skies of Korea, this aircraft showed up and basically startled everybody on the North American side because they didn't think the Russians actually had the capability of building an aircraft this sophisticated.
So this thing shows up and it's firing cannons.
It's firing a 37mm cannon, 2 23mm cannons in comparison to what our aircraft were armed with were 50 caliber machine guns.
Snowbirds, they're a staple at the Canadian International Air Show. What do the snowbirds mean to this show?
The snowbirds, they represent Canada and the Canadian forces. You know, they're flying in pretty old jets, but when you see that red and white fly and do the maple split, nothing makes you feel more proud of our Canadian forces.
This is Major Dennis Bandette. You're the team lead for the snowbirds, and obviously people love the snowbirds.
Very happy to be here. We're excited. We're in our Ontario swing right now and showing up in Toronto with this great weather. We're very excited to be here.
You can see all of these planes flying over the city this weekend. The show gets underway on Saturday and runs through Monday. The Red Arrows will open the show every day, and the Snowbirds will be your closer. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
Nick's back now with our extended forecast, and I think the long weekend and the first day back to school are on people's minds.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And you know, by and large, we've got a beautiful forecast in store. Little bit of rainfall to talk about for Sunday, but other than that, lots of sunshine and some warming temperatures to kick off the school year. This is what I talked about earlier on. These showers will pass through pretty quickly, though. By tomorrow morning, we're looking at generally clear skies. Should be a dry commute for tomorrow. By the time we hit the afternoon, just a few clouds in the sky, but generally speaking, expect sunshine to stick around till Saturday evening. And then Sunday, that's where we see the risk of a few showers on and off throughout the day on Sunday. In fact, starting even Saturday night. For tonight, rainfall totals in the neighborhood of about 5 to 10 millimeters of rain. Not a big rainfall event here. Most of it falling sort of Barrie, Collingwood area down south through the Golden Horseshoe. Locally heavier amounts, but that's generally what we're looking at. Winds, also the story here as well. It's been a little breezy through the day today. Through tonight, wind gusts up to about 50, 60 kilometers per hour. By the time we hit tomorrow morning, they start to peter out a little bit. Still gusts, though, to about 40 kilometers per hour, shifting slowly to the west and then the northwest, and that's going to usher in some cooler weather as we move into the weekend, but some dry weather as well, at least for Saturday anyway. There's a look at the forecast heading into Saturday. Now, southwestern Ontario tonight, temperatures down to 17 degrees. This comes with some showers and thunderstorms as well, scattered across the region. Tomorrow, though, clears out. 25 degrees, broadly speaking, right across southwestern Ontario. Now, for the Golden Horseshoe, basically the same forecast for tonight, about 17 degrees and showers and thunderstorms. By tomorrow, a little cooler at about 23 degrees as we move through Toronto and down around St. Catharines. For Saturday, 21 degrees, so a little cooler, a little drier, but we've got the sunshine there. Saturday night into Sunday, we're looking at showers on and off through the day Sunday. Not a big rainfall event, though. Monday, a mix of sun and cloud, 23 degrees. And back to school on Tuesday, high of 25 degrees, humidex of 30. Talia.
Looks pretty good. Thanks, Nick.
You bet.
It's an iconic sign in our city, and now it's getting an upgrade. The Toronto sign in Nathan Phillips Square is being replaced with a more durable one. The original sign was installed in 2015 on a temporary basis for the Pan Am Games. Although it was only built to last a few weeks, the city decided to keep the sign there because of its popularity. It's become an attraction in the city, with lots of visitors and Torontonians stopping to take pictures with it. The new sign will be waterproof, easier to clean, and have augmented lighting. The city will use reserve funds to pay for the rebuild, but says if you'd like to donate in order to enhance the sign, head to their website. The new sign's expected to be installed by the end of the year. And that's our show for you tonight. Thanks for watching. Chris Glover has your next local newscast tomorrow at 6. Good night.